One, two, Before we get started, just as a reminder, this channel is for educational purposes only, or perhaps entertainment purposes only, depending on what the law would prefer. Just want to give a few shout outs, say hello to everybody. Hey, Jeff Fields over on Odysee, good to see you. Anyone else who may be watching on Odysee? And Rumble as well, hello. Hey D, great to see you. Prepper, Uni, Terry, Nico, Mao, Jane, Shannon, Boss, Pan. Hey Ren, Amnesiac Actor, hello, hello. Hope you're all doing well. Hey Jay, Break the Spell, True Detective. Happy Friday to each and every one of you. And you're welcome, Nico. thank you. Thanks for your kind comment. Thanks, Mao. Thank you as well. Thank everybody. Okay, so it's nice. Got the weekend. So before we get into part 7, just want to give you a heads up. It's probably like what we're looking at. So obviously part 7's tonight, and we'll probably do part 8 on Sunday, but there is a tiny chance that we may have 3 streams in a row. We may do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm not sure. I kind of want to knock out the rest of the series, but let's see how I'm feeling. And there will be a continuation of The Witcher, most likely, after this stream. And then there's also a new game that I have scheduled called The Companion. Outer Wilds just really wasn't my thing. I don't know, just it was kind of a neat concept, but really not my thing. And so Sunday, the 3rd, after the stream, or if we do one tomorrow, it might be after that. But I already put 2 links up there on the Truth in Gaming channel, so feel free to set a reminder using, if you head on over to the channel, you can find those. And so yeah, that's about it. Let's get rolling. I think we're going to start off with a bang, if I remember correctly, on this one.
20. The Downloading Spirit Guide by Christine Pearson, Surrey, England. LBL
Guide.
Facilitator, accredited psychotherapist, and hypnotherapist. There are no guarantees in LBL regression. While it is possible to have profound life-changing contact with our own souls and the souls of loved ones, it could be that our guides block this contact because the time is not right for us to access this information. The following case turned out to be an experience that went way beyond the expectations of both client and therapist. The first contact I had with Marcus took place 9 months after I'd trained with Dr. Michael Newton and his team. My first impression? Here was a very intelligent, articulate, confident person working in the logical, factual world of computers. He might not have developed any interest in spiritual matters had he and his wife not spent some time living in a haunted house. This gave him direct experience of weird goings-on that didn't fit into the standard model of a rational material world. Marcus gave me wonderfully detailed background information on the main people in his life and clearly had thought deeply about the many questions to which he wanted to find answers as part of his LBL session. These questions covered broad issues such as the meaning of life and the workings of the various planes of existence, as well as personal issues relating to his own life purpose and how to better get his human personality working harmoniously with his soul. We spoke on the phone and communicated by email several times before we met. Marcus had previously read the LBL books by Dr. Newton, so he had a basic understanding of what might happen. At first, I found it difficult to guide Marcus into trance. The left side of his body was extremely relaxed, but the right side felt tense. I concluded from this that the right hemisphere of his brain, which controls the left side of the body, was happy to go into trance, but the left hemisphere was reluctant. I invited the 2 hemispheres to have a dialogue and air their concerns. Marcus told me that his soul, which was operating the right hemisphere, was excited and enthusiastic about this journey, but that his human ego, which was operating the left hemisphere, didn't want to cooperate because it knew this would mean confronting the reality of its mortality. This dialogue had a successful outcome, and Marcus went fully into trance.
Editor's note. It is not standard practice for the soul to operate solely from the right hemisphere of the brain, although that is our creative, intuitive side. It is just what was reported in this instance.
He went back to a past life in the 19th century and...
Okay, so Prepper says, wait, what gives them the right to block that contact? Well, I think the issue is they're basically going into a session. There's almost like an invitation with these guides. In this case, maybe it could be in relation to the issues they were having getting on a body, so the practitioner is trying to concentrate on one side, like the hemisphere, like Uni's mentioning. Yeah, there's definitely something to it, no doubt about it. It's just funny to hear it in the context that they did. But yeah, I would imagine it's because the individual may have trouble getting hypnotized, but I don't think we really necessarily get that too clear of a description.
He was cheated by a business partner. In the scene we visited, Marcus was extremely angry and forcefully accusing the man, but his partner wouldn't apologize and refused to accept responsibility. He recognized this man as someone he'd also had difficulties with during his current life. From the soul perspective, he saw that the karmic lesson was in learning to let go and forgive. He moved very rapidly through the death scene, rising up and away from Earth at breathtaking speed. He saw a tunnel and moved toward it and into it. The speed of the movement and the many colors that surrounded him, plus the completely different way of thinking here, were mind-blowing. Instead of the expected lightness, it was warm and thick, almost like a liquid, but it was pure love.
Pure love. Yeah, well, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? So, again, you have further confirmation. We've gone over this before, but I think it's really important to continue to point this out because, I'll get the question every once in a while, and it's a good question. It's like, how do we know that, the light at death is, legit, is like, especially when it comes to NDEs, because I'll get that a lot. It's like, oh, just because people are having an NDE, how do we know that the light is a representation of something someone's actually going to see at death? Well, it's things like this. We see it here. Another one, like really, I feel the nail in the coffin with the cross confirmation is shared death experiences. You have someone who, I know I'm just going to take a second on this one, but, or longer than that, about a minute or two. But it's important because anyone who's kind of on the fence about that, the light and all that stuff is possibly not a accurate representation about what can happen. I think it's pretty much proved itself to be true. And the shared death experience especially is a big one because you have someone who is not dying. They could be either next to their loved one or even halfway across the realm. It doesn't matter. And when their loved one is passing, they will have a shared death experience with their loved one and see their loved one or even experience going with their loved one down the tunnel and through the light and even sometimes the life review. Actually, pretty often the life review. But so there's cross confirmation between NDEs and SDEs, shared death experiences. And now you have even further confirmation in Michael Newton's book, which this isn't new confirmation. It's been in other regressions in Life Between Lives as well. But so you can see how they all work in unison and are representing the same overall functionality of what's going on.
Ted, time isn't linear here. It's so thick around you. There's a shield around time. Outside, you experience linear time. Inside, everything is accessible all at once. He spent a few moments experimenting by moving himself in and out, wholly in and then half out of this amazing space, in order to experience and understand the different realities. He commented that it felt like half of his body was in the spirit world, while the other half remained in the physical. The source is so powerful, you can't join until you're ready. Otherwise, you'd be blown apart. I'm not close to the source, but I feel very connected.
Of course.
As a soul, I've been here before. I think there are...
All right, so what do you have? You have further confirmation. As a soul, I've been here before. We've seen that discussed in NDEs many times. Like, some will say, oh, it was familiar to me. I know I've been here before. I remember this place. Or, of course, they'll sometimes call it home. So, again, further cross-confirmation between different types of experiences.
to the source, but I feel very connected. As a soul, I've been here before. I think there are things I generally have to attend to before meeting my guide. The speed is incredible. There are no limits. If you have the awareness, there is no limit, but it's easy to get lost. You learn. The younger ones have to be watched. They are such children, mischievous, like little monkeys. They get lost and frightened if they're not careful, and someone has to go and fetch them back. I am an old soul. I don't know how old.
Have to go and fetch them
I
back.
keep an eye on them. I can go very fast. It feels fantastic. There's no time. You have wonderful control over your environment and your ability to move around in it. After spending some time with his young...
So you hear again further confirmation of the control that we have, at least in our intentions and our essence. The problem is, and this, we end up looking at the same thing over and over and over again where the problem lies, and that's the belief inside the system. Believing in this system that it has your best interest at heart and that you need to do things like reunite with your quote-unquote soul group or go to the light and do a life review or reincarnate again. These are things that really need to be avoided. The interactions in all of this is where we get in trouble. So once you've kind of allowed the illusions that the Matrix puts forward to be validated through your own intention or belief or even, understandable desire to be reunited with those that you care about and things like that, well, that's all part of the big bag of tricks. So taking the sovereign journey is where it's at, to liberation.
To meet his guide, Peter. He made a strong telepathic connection, imagining a beam of light going from his heart to Peter's heart, and then he asked to be given information one stage above the level for which Peter thought he was ready. Peter asked if he was sure, and Marcus replied, "Yes, give it to me." What happened?
Okay, let's see. Well, I will evaluate you and let you know when you're ready. That's the translation. They're being a little more gentler about it. It's like, so we have the hierarchical system. Why is there a hierarchy inside any of this? If we're all creator beings, Christ, that's acknowledged over and over and over across almost any experiencer type, that we are all creator beings of our own. So who gives another creator being the authority to tell you what to do and to let you know that, oh, now you're deserving of hearing more information or learning more information about this supposed next level? It's deception at its finest.
Marcus jolted violently in his reclining chair. There then followed loud exclamations of, "Oh my God, oh my God." This went on for some minutes. Marcus had received a massive download of information from his guide, resulting in a change to his body energy around the heart and solar plexus chakras. He gasped, "My God, there's so much going on, I can't put it into words. Communication is phenomenally fast. I've just been told 10 million things. Here's XYZ for you to consume. It will take me a long time, maybe years, to process this. To process this information, I have to learn to meditate. I love physical sensation and passion, but I have to learn to switch off the human mind and meditate." In the weeks following this session, Marcus did meditate regularly. He was now able to see energy around him, to hear tones, and generally be more open and receptive to energies around him. Along with this, however, came some unwelcome activity in the house. There would be loud bangs and knocks, and Marcus would see spirits in his energy field. He was worried about the effect this could be having on his son, and therefore decided to reduce the meditation and concentrate on finding out more by reading widely on spiritual research and attending the College of Psychic Studies in London. We had a second session the following year that involved, amongst other things, a meeting with his soul group and his council, and an exploration into the various planes of existence in which energy vibrates at different frequencies. In addition, Mark is connected to his soul energy still in residence within the spirit world, his higher self, resulting in a clearer understanding of how karma operates in relation to positive and negative energy.
Dun, dun, dun.
We were quite keen to learn to discriminate between the various energies that approached him, to know if they might be benign or malign. His guide said he would be recognizable because he would touch the back of Marcus's neck when he wanted to communicate with him. And beyond that.
You know how ridiculous that is? Oh, this is a way I can identify you. I'm in the spirit world, okay? And this is a way for me to identify you. You know, tingling your neck or whatever, all right? Who is to say that what is actually doing that? You know? This, again, the blind faith, the blind trust that all these beings are who they claim to be and that they all have your best interest at heart or our best interest at heart. The guides, it's just, you know, we got to stop assuming everything that these things are looking out for us when they're freaking on different planes of existence, for one, when we're here. And when we're across, we're being inundated with a love bomb. and oftentimes desperate to be reunited with friends, family, pets. You know, the whole belief in this hierarchical system like Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad and God and baby Jesus and, you know, all, I mean, in Mother Mary and all this stuff. I mean, it's just, when does it end? And who's right? Who's right? All these beings, all these archetypes, you know, depending on where you're growing up, what side of the world you're growing up, what country, what, you know, you're going to learn a different faith, a different religion. So who's to say that your religion or your religion or your religion is the all-knowing, the truth, versus, let's say, my religion? It makes no sense. They have all sorts of different playbooks that they run, all sorts of different deities running around, and it's customized. And it's customized because that is the perfect way to deceive. If you can deceive someone by customizing the experience of what their expectations might be, then you get a leg up. You have a home field advantage every single time. It's when you veer off course and try to break free of the hive mind, that's when the system reacts. And that's when things, in my opinion, start to change for the better. Not necessarily without pushback, but and even ridicule, but it's the most self-empowering decision one can ever make, is breaking free of the hive mind constructs that are both here in the earth realm and in the astral, and beyond that, it falls under the umbrella of the matrix.
However, apart from the download, Peter has proved to be quite a hands-off guide who doesn't get involved in much direct communication.
Editor's note. With our first assignment to a newly formed soul cluster group after creation, an advanced, non-incarnating personal guide is chosen for us and other members of our group. This is not a haphazard appointment. While the immortal character of every teacher guide is different, it has been apparently determined by even higher beings that specific qualities of character and experience in guides are matched with our own soul character to produce the best results for our advancement.
When he does communicate, however, he can be quite blunt, making comments such as, "Don't be daft, you don't need my help for that." We asked the meaning of a green light that Marcus sometimes sees, and we were told that it simply means go. He often sees a kind of energy static around him, a little like the transporter effect in Star Trek as it's beaming up Captain Kirk. He was told that his guide had switched off some of the filters in his brain in order to expand his perception, so he can now begin to see more of the many dimensions that exist here. The human brain is actually a simple organ at a basic level, and it has difficulty coping with different types of information or communication streams. There are loads of filters in place.
Yeah, there are loads of filters in place, and it has difficulty processing a lot of the times. Boy, I wonder why. Who gave that to us? when we reincarnate, or perhaps a very small few out there reincarnate or incarnated for the first time, the disconnect is huge. Doesn't matter, whether you're on incarnation 1 or 100,000. The disconnect is massive between what we truly are as a true essence being and what you have to deal with once you get here through a meat suit, a horribly designed construct that's very fragile and dumbed down to about as dumb as it can get. And then yet you're supposed to learn and grow and flourish and figure out some grand master plan that is gonna, help you ascend or bypass reincarnation at some point, or get promoted by the Matrix and still remain in the system and just be a pawn anyways. Who gave this design? Who gave it? Certainly wasn't me. I mean, some people like to say that, we all co-created the entire thing. I don't necessarily align with that. I don't. I think this is the last thing I'll say on this. Okay. But the whole thing was maybe we collectively created this. The only reason I deny that is because I believe when at our core we are sovereign beings and we can get hooked into a group or hive mind type thinking. And that doesn't mean that maybe some of us did help create this place. What do we know, right? But the whole collective, I don't believe that. I don't. I think beings come here from all over the multiverse, for lack of a better phrase. And what happens, right? Some may even, just get attracted to a place like this. The attraction to being an eternal being and also capable of coming down and experiencing something like death. So I could see how there's an attraction there, but as far as us collectively creating this place, I just don't think so. I think the collective part to all this, the hive mind part to all this, is so strong because we're all shuffling through this illusion. I mean, just the concept of having to, quote, reunite with source or reunite with God or, quote, reunite with the creator, on and on and on, and all this stuff. That's all hive mind activity. And it's putting something else on a pedestal above you and robbing you of your sovereignty in the same process. So, yeah, I don't necessarily at all. I don't at all believe that because we may be in this hive mind that we all literally helped create this place. Now, we are, creator beings, and we do create once we get here. But if we had a hand in creating it, no, I just don't think that. There may be some, but I think the bulk, probably not. Or no, not.
Your human brain wouldn't be able to take it. The level of energy overload would drive you insane.
Oh, God. All right, I'm sorry for stopping this. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. It's a really important point to bring up here. So let's just replay this just a little bit.
Types of information or communication streams. There are loads of filters in place. If you had a fully open doorway back home, your human brain wouldn't be able to take it. The level of energy overload would drive you insane. For example,
and okay, so one common thing we hear with those who are apologists for the memory wipe is this exact type of thinking. It's like, oh, well, if you came down here and you had memories of your past lives and what you were supposed to, it would be too much. You just could not handle it. Now, fair enough. You can even say that, yeah, some of that may be true. It may be overwhelming and this and that. But, there's a huge but. Where things don't align is, well, okay, in the chat, how many of you here have any memories of your past lives? And even if you do, how many do you have? What, 1, 2, 3 maybe? Maybe you went for a regression and you're getting a little bit of information here, a little bit there. But how many here organically have those memories? Even anything of value, like where it, like I like to call it like the guidebook. Do you have the guidebook that came in your, with your pre-birth memories before you came down here and knew what to do? Nobody does, right? It's just not possible. And those who make claims, big claims like, oh, I have every single memory of every single incarnation and blah, 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 blah. Get out of here. Get out of here. I don't want to hear it. It's just complete horseshit. Now, there may be some who obviously have pre-birth memories, like Harold and a number of others. But in reality, what are we looking at? We're looking at a very small sample size. So when I hear things like, oh, you just could not be able to handle it. Well, they sure as hell have no problem making sure that trauma carries over from past lives, or this karma stuff, or, again, if you're here to learn and grow and excel, I know I'm like a broken record sometimes, but if that's all true, you'd think you'd have a little bit of a guidebook. You'd have, a little journal that comes with you when you pop out and come into the world, right? And it's something that's always going to be there, so at least you have a rough outline. You don't even have that. I don't even have it. Nobody has it. And then some who think they have it, most of the time when they are making those claims, even like especially NDEers, you'll hear them say, like, oh, like, I still don't necessarily know what I'm supposed to be doing after they've come back here, after they've supposedly met God and blah, 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 and this and that. And like that, they have to come back and fulfill their mission. And they openly admit time and time and time again that they don't know. And some will say that they think they know, or that they hope that what they are doing is correct. But as far as like point blank knowing, it is so rare to hear something like that. So because of how rare it is, where someone actually makes a declaration that, oh yes, I know what I'm supposed to be doing, that you can't rely on that, because there's just so few examples of it. But there are many examples of people openly admitting, hoping that what they are doing is what God wanted them to do when they came back. Which we can go back and just like put all this stuff on the table and again and say, well, NDEers don't even know. People have amazing spiritual experiences. They don't know. So, and even if you have maybe let's just say like 0.5% that may think they know, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and that they do know. What about everybody else? What about you? What about me? See, it all falls apart. It makes no sense. But yet, these are the data patterns that we see. They're always there. Constantly reaffirming and reassuring one another. So, really, the gig is up. This place has been exposed.
Without knowing what they're doing, are potentially playing with fire because they're opening up, aligning their energy, and removing filters. It can lead to insanity. They see demons where none exist. There are so many different types of filters that perform so many functions. Autistic children, some children's filters are damaged. But other filters are changed so that they are very high functioning. So many filters performing so many things, so we use a small amount of brain power. These filters are being switched on and off. That's being changed, opening up just a little bit more.
Editor's note. Kundalini is a concentrated form of universal life force involving both yoga and meditative discipline to create communication between the spiritual and physical planes.
It's 2 years later, and the changes in Marcus's life that have resulted from his LBL session are profound. He has met his guide, his soul group, and his council. He has directly experienced different planes of existence and has expanded his consciousness. Healing energy is transmitted spontaneously through his hands. He hasn't been handed all this knowledge on a plate, though. His ability to perceive has been greatly enhanced, but to some degree he is still exploring uncharted territory, and this takes courage. There have been times when he has blocked out perceptions for fear of losing his sanity. At one time, during meditation, he became aware of a spirit scanning his body. Another time, again during a meditation, an apparently angry spirit began to tear at the energy around his heart center, and he rapidly shook himself back to full alertness.
Editor's note. We are told that Marcus has had to block out perceptions for fear of losing his sanity. Psychologically, this statement is very revealing, in light of what follows in terms of meditations, long after his sessions, where this client was frightened by angry spirits who were ready to take over his body. There are people who are terrified of the idea that meditation...
Angry spirits are gonna take you over. Gotta learn protection. It's really important. I had some really freaky and really nasty meditation sessions in the past. I'm definitely not going to sugarcoat that. But what really sucks is most meditations don't tell you that, you sometimes you do need to make sure that you're protecting yourself if things get weird. Or like if it's like super intrusive thoughts, things like that. Part of opening yourself up to meditation is you're basically on a different frequency, a different wavelength. And that makes you subject to being vulnerable against other beings, entities that may try to inject themselves, either for shits and giggles or for whatever reason. Maybe loosh. I don't know. But I think that it's known for, we'll just call it the spirit world, right? I think it's known that for those that are still kind of in the matrix system that, we are a bit vulnerable because we're not fully disconnected most of the time, even in meditation. You will obviously lessen your experience and surroundings and everything related to the earth realm experience, but there's still like a cord attached. There's still some piece there, no matter how successful you are. And then I think there are those moments though in meditation where you can achieve just incredible things, where it is just you. Or at least it definitely seems that way. I mean, there's some of the most formative experiences I think someone can have. Anyways.
Was frightened by angry spirits who were ready to take over his body. There are people who are terrified of the idea that meditation, hypnosis, sleep, being in a coma, etc., let down the mental barriers of the conscious mind and leave us open to demonic spirits.
Well, see, like to say there's some people that think that. Let's just hear what else he has to say before I comment.
History has emerged in recent years over this false belief system. The misuse of energy cleansing therapy in some quarters, under the title of spiritual attachment release, is a good example. This smacks of exorcism and attracts people in certain religious circles. Every concept in our conscious mind has its own psychic associations that vary in intensity depending on life circumstances and belief systems.
Now, see, I think that's a very, very good point. It's a very good point. The problem is you have a lot of people who do believe in that, right? Or know that demonic energy, demonic beings exist, but how we play a role in our acceleration in a possible interaction with those things, that plays a big factor too. So even though you can say, okay, yes, demonic or evil beings exist, good, loving, lighthearted beings exist, and the plane of duality is kind of mixed in with all this because we have we're in a dualistic realm. But to kind of just shrug it off at the same time and not say, oh yeah, just because it's there, or doesn't mean just because you have a belief system in it doesn't mean that it can't be present. Your mind can race. You can really start to get overly mixed up in these types of scenarios. So I don't care what anyone says. If you spend any amount of time meditating, you are eventually going to run into a session or a number of sessions that are difficult. Bottom line, that's it. And learning how to protect yourself through intention is important. And I think there's that part of meditation practice or any sort of spiritual practice that results in altering your consciousness or going outside your body or halfway going outside your body, whatever. Those types of teachings should be mandatory. People do need to know. You need to know that these things happen, that they're possible. And some of us, yeah, they're subconscious and we have obvious feelings and beliefs that can make things worse or whatever, however you want to say it. But they can affect you. They can affect me. It's happened. I know, keep repeating myself, but that shouldn't dissuade you from practicing either, because meditation is a wonderful thing. It really is. And there's way more positives to gain off of it than negatives. It's just important to ground yourself in protection, basically. I don't even like using grounding yourself because just like grounding in combination with meditation is kind of a weird. It's like they oppose each other. But so yeah, it's just protecting yourself, using, creating a chi ball of energy around your essence at all times. That's all.
Spirits are waiting to attach themselves to our soul creates unnecessary fear with susceptible people who are attracted to medieval superstition because many feel they deserve to be punished for their transgressions on earth. While there are discarnated souls who are not ready to go into the light after death, and even extraterrestrial souls, souls who have never been incarnated in human form, or simply curious or mischievous souls, there are not dark forces involving evil or demonic entities ready to attach or steal the souls of the incarnated. Why? Because evil does not exist in the spirit world.
Oh. All right. Wow. I mean, this is like right down the New Age Highway 101. I mean, and it's just a common, like NDE. I mean, there's not even New Age. It's just like even NDEs, tons of different experiences out there can make the same claim. And then you can have tons of other experiences diametrically opposed to that. So which one is it? We know that there is some sort of evil presence. It's a fact that mixes itself up with the earth realm, with the human experience. We know there are evil, nasty, demonic entities in the astral realm. Not everyone has a love and light experience. And I have to preface this by also saying, kind of like what Newton was talking about earlier. It's like, we have our belief systems and everything like that plays a big role because there is a customization factor going in, at least with a number of like experience or things, but especially like things like NDEs, the life review, like there's just this and the conditioning here that we can take over into the astral, like even just an out of body experience or something like that. But the level of lucidity and awareness in general is what matters. That's what matters. But to kind of just chalk it up like, oh, it doesn't exist. Well, technically, you can say he's right because it's continually falling into the illusion that is this whole experience, like the illusion of the hierarchy, the illusion that you have to interact with the illusion and give it this kind of credence or prop it up or whatever. That's where we get into trouble. So there are constructs within the illusion that are absolutely evil, and there are constructs in the illusion that are, love and light. But they all seem to be funneling into the same overall umbrella system of the Matrix. So it's like if you're still stuck in it and it's resulting in you not getting out, then it's fucking evil. Bottom line. All right? And we know bad things can happen. That doesn't mean be afraid or be scared or anything. It's just being aware, understanding that, yeah, even though he's technically right if one has absolutely 100% liberated themselves, not stay stuck inside the entire Matrix system and think that this hierarchical group of creeps has any say over any of us. So it's really like a slippery slope. I refute him mostly. He gets away with a very, very, very small technicality, and only when looking at it through the lenses of someone who's already liberated themselves outside the entire system. That's the only place he gets a break. So, other than that, he's wrong. But this is a common thing. We see it all the time. And Michael Newton openly admitted in his first 2 books to having assistance from guides in his work. All right. Open admissions that he was involved with the Matrix marketing department. That alone speaks volumes. That should concern anyone. Yes, it is a demonic system. Absolutely. Bit of venom.
Steal the souls of the incarnated. Why? Because evil does not exist in the spirit world. A sphere of love, compassion, and kindness.
Oh, please.
The idea of dangerous spirits ready to inhabit the human mind is not something the highly advanced, benevolent beings of the spirit world would permit.
Oh, shut up. I mean, come on. Christ. I'm not going to keep pausing it, but that speaks for itself. Anyone who has done any low-level research would know that that's not true. Possession and, nasty entities inserting themselves into humans goes back as far as we have records for. It's not new. It's a fact.
Of spiritual integration involving the soul and human brain, believe that the notion of spirit attachments are fragments of one's own self that require healing. Suppressing aspects of the self may create a phenomenon that resembles possession as an aspect of the unintegrated self. Psychologically, such negative energy in fearful people often involves feelings of guilt, unworthiness, personal inadequacy, and a variety of unresolved issues in life. It is relevant for listeners to know that if Marcus had experienced a troublesome and unaccounted spirit during his session, the LBL facilitator in this story would have dealt with it promptly. Such disturbing visualizations are rare in our work, but they do occur. As an example, The therapist in this case worked with a lady who visualized something similar to Marcus, and the facilitator immediately called on this woman's personal spirit guide for assistance.
Wow.
The guide explained that this dark, sinister figure who came to steal this hypnosis subject's soul was actually a member of her own soul group on a mission to shake her out of her depression. And
Okay, all right. So, does anyone does anyone find this interesting? That when it comes to Newton saying that, oh, like, you know, demonic possession and this, and I'm pretty sure I'm reading this right, but correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to put it in the chat. But from what I gather, Newton is saying, oh, well, you know, the demonic entities and stuff like that, that's just you. That's like, you know, part of a fractured point of view that is doing that. But then when it comes to something like the soul group or the council or a guide or something like that, that's a separate entity. That's a separate being. So see the disconnect there? It's just the being an apologetic. Someone who's explaining things away as if, oh, well, you know, when it's bad, well, it's just you. It's just, you know, you're overthinking. It's your subconscious. It's your essence kind of battling with one another. But when it's anything else, it's all love and light, and it's another being in your soul group and your guides, your council, blah, blah, blah. See, it falls on, it just, you get my point.
not all spirits are advanced or skillful enough to engage the human mind smoothly during the first try.
Despite this, however, the changes have been overwhelmingly positive. His guide has shown him various images during meditations, for instance, the birth of his own soul. This was a beautiful, profound witnessing of himself as a fragment of energy breaking away from the source amid a kaleidoscope of colors and an intense feeling of love. In addition, he has seen inside his physical body, watched it emit high levels of light energy, and witnessed the healing power of the light from above. Marcus is a teacher soul, and part of his purpose during this lifetime is to make enlightenment available to others, to offer insights into the reality of our spiritual existence. Alongside his day job, he has been carrying out healing and charity work in shelters for the homeless. He plans to offer help in hospices to ease the passing of those who are frightened of death simply because they don't know that they are more than their human personality.
And that's nice.
One of his best discoveries, though, is simply to know at a deep level who he is, a multi-dimensional soul interconnected with all that is. Marcus is planning to write a film script depicting the spirit world and the various activities in which souls participate, again in order to play his part in making the knowledge of these spiritual realities available to as many people as possible. This is a very capable, dynamic person with great passion and great talent, and I look forward to his plans becoming reality. It was a real joy and a privilege for me to be able to work with him.
All right. Well, that is the end of that case. Whew. Went a long time just in that one case. All right. Just bear with me one moment while I queue up the next one. Okay, where did it go? What do we got here? All right, so we're going to move on to the next case. But before I do, I just want to give a big thank you to Monkey Man for the very kind and generous super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying this series. Thank you, Mark. Glad you're enjoying it, my friend. And thank you. Armchair Mystic gifted 5 memberships. Thanks so much. That's very kind of you. Very kind and generous. Thanks, Armchair Mystic. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. And it looks like the notifications for Super Chats here on YouTube and Stream Elements isn't working the last few streams. I see them in the chat, but normally I get a notification that pops up on the screen. So if I did miss any of you, I apologize. I'll be sure to go through and check any of the history, just to make sure and also acknowledge you if I did miss you. And if I did, I apologize. Okay. Thanks again. All right, here we go. Headed on to the next case.
21. Jingle Bells. By Nancy Hayek, Nashville, Tennessee. Case study reviewer for TNI Certification Committee. Performs clinical hypnosis, past life, and between lives regression. This case illustrates how people may play similar roles in both our past and current lives, and how present relationships can be colored by the nature of these past associations. It also reveals a direct correlation between physical symptoms manifesting in the current life and the circumstances of death in the former life, linked by feelings of guilt and helplessness. James learns that his feelings of anger and self-loathing carried over from the past are causing a block to his evolution. Upon retrieving his between lives memories, he learns that it is up to him to let go of the wounds of the past in order to fulfill his life's purpose. This case also demonstrates how our guides use images that are important to us as metaphors in illustrating our strengths and weaknesses. James came into my office a man on a mission. A psychotherapist, he devoted himself to helping others burdened with anxiety and depression while suffering privately with the very same conditions. He explained that on the outside, his life appeared idyllic, a beautiful family, nice home, and an ambitious career with a thriving practice. But at 45, he had already experienced a long history of inner turmoil, escalating into migraines, paralyzing panic attacks, and agoraphobia. Medication and traditional therapy had mediated his unease for short periods, but an undercurrent of anxiety continued to surface, and the damage to his family life, career, and own self-image was increasing. James told me that he'd had enough. He intended to get to the source of his condition, heal himself, and live free of fear and medication. As a child, James lived with his mom and grandparents, never knowing his father. When he was 4 years old, his mother introduced him to Bill, a man she was dating. "No, not him," was the boy's first response. As Bill became a permanent fixture, so did his emotional and verbal abuse. James's attachment to his mom turned into a constant fear of losing her, and his dislike of Bill turned into anger and resentment. The day he graduated from high school, he came home to find his stepfather violently shaking his mother. James punched him in the face, and Bill went down. That night, James was told to leave. We began our investigation with past life regression, looking into a lifetime significant to James's anxiety. He recalled being a black slave, Albert, in the American South, 1800s Georgia. Due to his position as overseer of the field slaves, he was callously whipped and humiliated by his master, and forced to whip his own people when instructed. Albert grew to hate his master, but held his anger in check to stay alive. His wife was often raped and beaten by the master, and succumbed to wounds and a broken spirit, dying early in life. Albert lived the remainder of his life angry, resentful, and lonely. As he died, he felt his soul shoot upward, coming to rest in the presence of a vibrant being. He reported that his body began to shiver up the spine with excitement. He recognizes the being as his guide and calls him George. Nancy: How does George greet you? James: He tells me it was my lack of faith in myself that made me lonely as Albert. And now he asks, why do I worry? Everything will be taken care of. If I had more faith, I would know this and not have the anxiety. When I waver, he has to bring me back. He grows tired of it.
If you knew.
Nancy:
But
Is
you
he
don't
truly
know.
tired of working with you in this manner? James: No, not really. He just says that for a fact. He waits patiently for me to come back to faith, to trust in his presence.
That's how you trust the
He's
process.
telling me he's proud of me. I never got that from anyone in this life. And I see now that my wife in the past is my mother today. And
Why is she talking like that? Come on. Come on. Let's go. Let's get real.
is my mother today.
Oh,
And the slave master is the same soul as that of my stepfather, Bill.
Yeah, see?
Nancy: Will we work with George in the spirit world during our next session? James: He says if you must. I think he says that to me often. He says that when he wants to imply there is a more direct route, if I would have faith and connect with him internally. Sometimes I go about things in a particular way, circuitously. He says it will come out the same in the end. He's patient and amused. A few weeks passed, and James was back for his Life Between Lives regression. He felt he had become more relaxed after his last visit and was looking forward to further revelations. Recounting his life as Albert had brought great insight into the dynamics between himself and his mother and stepfather. The baffling panic he often felt before going to work became comprehensible. He confessed he was so excited about his LBL that he felt like there was a Santa Claus, and today was going to be like opening up presents on Christmas morning. His objective was to find relief for his headaches and continue diffusing his anxiety, particularly the anxiety that originated in his stomach. We began the journey by going to my client's most recent past life as a German soldier in World War II. The scene opens in the cold woods. My client finds himself as Klaus, preparing for night watch. He inventories his weapons, rifle in right hand, ammunition box on left, pistol on right, canteen on left, grenades in back, all attached to a big belt, like a Santa Claus belt, he explains. He's lonely. He thinks of his wife and children. He does not want to be here. He never wanted to come. He says he was forced to come.
Oh.
The Nazis threatened his family.
The
next day, the enemy is engaged. He says tensely, I am at the front of the pack, behind a dirt bank. I'm stationed as a sniper. I shoot them when they move for position between the trees. I shoot for the head, as I'm told. We have the advantage. We kill them all. I don't feel good about it. We march forward, dead Americans everywhere. It makes me sick. Later, the others celebrate, drink. I separate myself. I want to throw up. I'm torn up inside. I like to be the best. I like the praise from my commander, but I hate myself for the killing. Another battle follows. Klaus is moving across an open field when he is shot in the stomach.
Is it Klaus Anal Schwab?
Feels the hot, burning pain as he drifts in and out of consciousness. He slips from his body, sees a light in the distance, and feels peace. Moving closer, he sees the light as a tunnel. He enters, and as he glides through the tunnel, the earthly pain gradually disappears. George is behind him. They exit the tunnel and move through layers of fog. Nancy. What is the purpose of the fog? James. Contemplation. I process the past life. My guide has his hand on the small of my back, calming me, allowing me to do this. Nancy. By what name does he call you? James. Theos. After a warm welcome by familiar souls, Theos is taken to a small enclosure he calls a 4 by 8 foot room to think.
Editor's note. It may appear to the listener that this soul has been delegated to solitary confinement for transgressions in life, as a kind of purgatory. Actually, nothing of the sort is happening.
No. It's a deception. Yeah, that doesn't make whatever sort of horrible atrocity someone may commit, regardless of whether it's this case or not, hint, then it doesn't matter, right? It's well, the way this place sets people up is that they will have to pay down that debt of karma when they cross over. So it's the fear, guilt, shame matrix recycling itself over and over and over again. Meanwhile, the life script is heavily influenced by your guides or the council or a combination of both before you come here. So if you happen to land in a certain situation or happen to grow up in a certain family where there's violence is promoted, now does that obviously make it right? No. But the point is humans, the human body, the human experience can be more influenced into violence. and doing horrific things on one another. So when you realize that the life script is coming from the astral before we get here, and then atrocities are carried out, it doesn't excuse them, but it sure as hell points and shows the deception right in front of our faces. Because it's like, oh, well, okay, here's your life script. We're gonna try and make sure that you assault a few people, hurt a few people, kill a few people, or do whatever. And then when you die, we're going to throw it in your face. Now, of course, there is still a free will component where someone can say, no, I'm not going to do something like that. Or I'm going to work on myself to make sure that I don't do it again. Right? Again, not excusing away anything. There is an ability for everyone to walk away and do the right thing. But when you also look at how early childhood development works and environment and everything else, you can see easily how these things can happen. Not an excuse, but you can see how horrible things can be perpetrated onto others for whatever reason. Mostly because, again, we'll revert right back to the horrible design of the human meat suit where it's easily programmable and subject to brainwashing, programming, and potentially doing bad things. So, yeah, it's just... It's a sick cycle. Like, that's really how you have to look at it. You have to look at how this cycle can continue. Okay, here's your life script. You're going to be a mass murderer. You're going to be a mass rapist. You're going to be, a violent person. You're going to steal from others. You're going to do whatever. And you're never, ever going to try and improve yourself. And then when you die, we're going to throw it in your face and say, like, oh, you need to work on it. So, karma time, pay up. The deck is rigged every step of the way.
Of solitude and reflection right after a physical life, before rejoining their spirit group. These small places have been described as enclosures of high energy vibrations to facilitate thought, and sometimes are portrayed as crystalline caves in nature.
Nancy, what do you think about in this place? James, I'm thinking about the emotions I felt as Klaus, the regret I have now, the pain I caused, the fear of those I killed, the loss to their families, the burning of their gunshot wounds. Nancy, where do you feel the burning? James, in my head. I aimed for the head. Nancy, is this related to the migraines experienced in the present time? James, yes, directly. Nancy, is the sense of anxiety in the stomach related to these past events? James, yes, to my fatal wound. Nancy, what triggers these symptoms to manifest in the current time? James, Theos is absorbed in strong feelings of disappointment in himself, and then he answers the question. I am condemning myself more than anyone around me is, but I am responsible for a lot of misery.
Well,
Being the best.
Wait, what was that? Hold on.
Then he answers the question. I am condemning myself more than anyone around me is, but I am responsible for a lot of misery.
Okay, I am condemning myself more than anyone. What is that kind of linked to? It links to NDEs, where they constantly say, oh, well, I was judging myself. I was judging myself. I happened to be under the influence of whatever energy it was and buying into the entity's deception, I guess you can say. And, well, it was just me. It was me judging myself. It wasn't some other entity doing it. It wasn't an AI computer matrix construct doing it. No. It was all me. All me. Then why does this system exist? What is this? What is this?
Killing many. Why couldn't I have been more like Jesus?
How come everyone seems to come up with the same conclusion that they're judging themselves? There's clearly a set of mechanisms in play that produces that same response over and over and over and over again. It's right there. Regardless of whether, whatever you believe about any single experience, you could throw this one away, you can throw however many you want away, but NDEers are saying the same thing. Consistently. Shared death experiencers will say the same thing, that they were their family, their mother, their father, or whoever is passing was judging themselves, unless of course they happen to slip into their own life review after witnessing a loved one's life review. Then it could be a combination of two things, but in the end they're always saying that they judged themselves. So if they judge themselves, and so many people are saying it, or so many beings are saying that, then why is it so consistent? Because there is a set of mechanisms clearly for all of us to see. There is in my opinion, something equivalent to a computer program that's doing it. Yes, roll out the karma.
Like Jesus. He let himself be killed before he would harm another. It is wrong to kill. I am not proud of myself. Nancy, is your guide able to help you work through these feelings? James, pause. Yes, but it seems that there are others as well, sending thoughts into this space. It's very peaceful in this small room. Nancy, who are these others? James, searching. I'm not sure. Nancy, will those who are helping you suggest how to remedy the headache and anxiety in your life as James?
Editor's note. While it seems as though the hypnotherapist here is leading the client in their exchanges, I want to stress that when writers of dialogue in past life and afterlife cases construct their stories for books, we have a dilemma due to the space condensations that this sort of writing requires. If we wrote about all the nuances connecting our open-ended questions, the average case would be double in length. For example, the writer in this section probably began her inquiry with something like, "What can you tell me about those around you?" Typically, there would be a number of questions before, "Who is helping you with how to remedy the headache and anxiety in your life?" We don't have the time for all the questions leading up to the one presented here. However, having said that, I should also add that there are clients who occasionally will require a leading or directive question by the hypnosis facilitator to jolt them into a response. There are clients who are so in awe of the afterlife that they don't want to speak of the divine revelations that they are visualizing and hearing. The experience is almost sacred to them, and they must almost be given permission to affirm what they already know or are learning about during the session. This is what makes our work so challenging.
It's
James,
a learning experience.
Quietly. I hold this against the self. I need to release the self-loathing in order to truly love others. Forgive myself so that I can forgive others. As my client tentatively ponders this advice, another being appears. James says it is Jesus and is somewhat unnerved, but as he looks more closely, he reports the figure changes in appearance, now wearing gold track shoes and a toga.
Gold track
Nancy,
shoes, huh? He's styling.
Who is this being? James, a bit relieved.
James.
Oh, it's Donovan. He helps me as well, more of a junior guide working under George. He appeared...
Donovan the singer?
It's Donovan. He helps me as well, more of a junior guide working under George. He appeared as Jesus to get my attention. It worked.
Editor's note. During the earlier alpha stages of hypnosis in LBL sessions, there are subjects who may mention known historical religious figures on Earth, whom they relate to on a conscious level. This is what is known as preconditioned conscious interference. But once the deeper theta state of hypnosis is achieved, usually after mentally crossing into the spirit world, symbolic religious figures disappear in favor of the recognition of a personal spirit guide.
Nancy, why would he appear as Jesus to get your attention? James,
He's tricking
in
you.
my life as Albert, I tried hard to follow Jesus' example. I was taught to read. The one book I had was a Bible. I see myself clinging to his words when things were hard to bear. Nancy, does Donovan remind you of this for a reason? James, he wants me to remember how well I used this, how I could have lashed out in anger many times, but instead controlled myself in the wake of great provocation. Nancy, is this knowledge important in your life as James? James, reflective. Yes, Donovan is showing me a common theme. As Albert, I hated being afraid, humiliated. The fear turned into anger. I was angry at being powerless. I even envied the master's position. While I did well to control impulsive acts, focusing on the message of Jesus, I did not take it into my heart. The feelings returned to me now as James, anger at being disrespected, fear when I am not on top of the heap. The anxiety comes from this and is a signal that I'm going off message. I wanted to resolve all this as James. Donovan shows me how these feelings surfaced recently. He was stimulating them. He knew I wanted to face them and was helping me. Donovan escorts Theos to a group of souls he collaborates with, both in the spirit world and on Earth. He says they work on a shared lesson, to express great amounts of love when faced with great challenge on Earth.
Shared lesson.
He is reminded that both his need for recognition and the self-condemnation when he pursues recognition pose a block to his mission. Interestingly, the group members position themselves in the shape of a triangle, one of several triangles presented to Theos during his journey through the spirit world.
Oh, truth in plain sight.
Here, he finds himself in the center of the formation. Nancy, why the triangles, Theos? What is the
Good
importance of this
question.
shape? James, they are using this shape to describe the importance I place on reaching the apex, my need to be on top, that I feel I have to be the best. Nancy, why do they place you in the center? James,
Because you're never
they
getting out.
surround me with their love. It feels good. They want me to know the love I can feel by being in the center of the triangle.
Wow.
I don't have to
talk about just damn. That's an interesting moment right there, huh? It's like, oh, why are you in the center? Well, that's where you belong. We're on the outside of the pyramid, controlling you, and we're gonna love bomb you into submission. Interesting. If true.
can feel by being in the center of the triangle. I don't have to be at the top to be loved. Later, Theos is escorted into what appears to be a courtroom and finds himself standing before a council of elder beings. Their configuration is created by a raised platform, highest in the center while descending in steps on either side, giving the presentation of a triangle. Theos peers intensely at the figures, trying to answer my inquiries. Frustrated, he says they are white statues. The highest one, in the middle, looks like a white Santa Claus statue. Nancy, after deepening, I'd like you to relax your gaze and glance softly toward the center figure. James, excitedly.
Make love to the camera.
He becomes animated. Like a jolly Saint Nick, red and green come to life in his clothes. He wears a necklace with a round pendant, the peace sign.
Editor's note. Signs and symbols are often presented in one form or another to souls appearing before a council. They are designed to have specific meaning to the developing soul. Medallions worn by the elders add to a soul's learning about events and actions in their physical lives.
Please.
Nancy, and the significance of this symbol? James, pause. Peace within myself, Peace with what I've done. Peace with the anxiety. It's everything that I yearn for. I put out my hand. He laughs. Ho, ho, ho. I get the message. I'll prosper more if I attain it for myself. Theos describes the other figures. Each time he strains to see them clearly, they become white statues. When I ask Theos to discern the purpose of this effect, he discovers it demonstrates the effect of straining. He sees this is generated when he becomes fearful and forces things to happen, rendering his aspirations lifeless and beyond reach. The elders convey that his goals will come easier if he will relax his grip and have faith in the inner workings of his life. They tell him to lighten up and have some fun along the way, and enjoy life. The council members continue to display the attitudes that revivify fears of the past and generate anxiety in the present.
That sounds great. That sounds great. They're really on Klaus Anal Schwab's side.
Generate anxiety in the present.
Sorry, we're with James now. Sorry about that.
Another of the elders is dressed as Ramses, an Egyptian pharaoh. His extravagant gold headdress implies fancy nothingness. I should not be preoccupied with being head man. The words of Jesus come. The first shall be last, the last shall be first. Next to him is another. A crow sits on his right shoulder. Being critical comes to mind. The crow implies my impulse to pick at things. I become consumed in critical thought when I fear failure. He shows me a bird sitting quietly. I don't have to get rid of it, simply tame it, rely more on my intuition. When I forget this, the anxiety comes in my stomach. When I get it right, I feel the shiver up my spine. Nancy, your council members seem like an imaginative bunch. Do they always appear as these characters? James, no, they use whatever suits the lesson best and my state of mind. They knew the Santa would get my attention today. Very clever. I feel now they were the ones sending thoughts into the box when I first arrived, helping me to start figuring things out for myself. Nancy, Theos, it seems you have learned much about the origins of your desire for esteem and position, and the anxiety that comes when you fear losing these. The connection between your lives as Albert and James is becoming clearer, but how does your life as Klaus fit into the plan? We know that period left you deeply conflicted and forlorn. James, pensive. I see now. It was an ambitious idea, but I wanted it. Just coming out of my time as Albert, it would be very tempting to choose the path offered to Klaus. Being important, praise for my marksmanship, respect from others. I really messed up. I had intended to resist the offer, to go with my heart, stay with my family. Instead, I fell for it. I see why I could not stomach the killing. I was not there in any sense of service or moral conviction. It was all about personal recognition. Donovan, the council, they knew it would be challenging. They figured in several ways out of this path, but I was so hungry for acclaim, I missed them all. Nancy, how does it feel to be aware of these intents and choices? James, oh, very helpful. I know what I need to do. I want to get a handle on this and achieve what I intended, rather than seek rank and power, as in his German life. To remedy my wounds, I want to respect myself for the love and forgiveness I can offer. In the year following his LBL, James took to heart the advice of his guide and elders and came up with a new way to excel. He learned to quiet himself, listen to inner counsel, to trust his intuition and the shivers up his spine. A man inspired, James says it best. This experience has changed my entire worldview, my perspective. Knowing of the life of my soul, I know this life isn't final. It's a process. The goals of my daily life have changed. My self-esteem had been determined by my material accomplishments. Now I am smelling the roses for the first time in my life, and I feel emotionally connected to life again. My work ethic is back, and my anxiety is completely gone. My eldest son is showing signs of being just like I was, angry, frustrated, anxious. He was a fellow slave in my time as Albert. Now I can show him the things that are important and those that are not. I also feel more normal. When I did not understand myself so well, I felt odd for having these thoughts and feelings inside. Now it just seems reasonable. Things just pop out into my consciousness now, realizations about what I recalled in session, and sometimes totally new information. I feel I can communicate with my guides whenever I choose. I think what I hold most dear is the humor, playfulness, patient demeanor, and creativity of my guides and elders. I believe they have rubbed off on me. Being human, we blanket ourselves from our greater purpose and prior intention. Our lives on Earth tend to separate us from the body of our work as souls and leave us grappling not only with the angst of the moment, but with its resonant mumbling from the past. Sometimes I think it remarkable that we glean as much as we do from a lifetime. For James, recalling his immortality was like shaking off sleep, and with it the blunders that can come with drowsiness. His sense of himself has shifted. He is now aware of his courageously inventive soul and at home in a universe supported by wisdom, suffused with light, and surrounded by love.
Surrounded by love and light. The 1-2 punch. It's like all roads lead back to the same thing. Deception, overpowering influence, and love bombs, counsel, guide, soul group, rinse and repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. So it's crazy. Totally crazy how it's always there. It's a good thing because we can see it. I guess if they hid it a little better from us, then it would be harder to identify where this all occurs. So, all right, I'm going to, let's see where we at here. I think we can do one more, but I got to take a quick break. Been going for a little over 2 hours. Let me just see. Yeah, we could definitely do one more. We might be able to do two. I don't know, we'll start with one. Yeah, okay, so we'll definitely do one more. I will be back here in about 5 minutes. You guys take a break, take a stretch, grab yourself some water, do what you got to do, and be with you in about 5.5, 6 minutes. Thanks so much. along, I want to give another big thank you to Armchair Mystic for gifting another 5 memberships. Thank you so much. That's very kind and generous of you. Appreciate you. And I'm sure many in the chat appreciate you. So thank you so much. And okay, so really quickly, some of you already may be aware, I have a new channel I'm starting up on Odysee and Rumble. And it's laughing at our Clown World Matrix. You can find links to those in the description tab of the video, regardless of where you're watching tonight. And again, those are only going to be on Odysee and Rumble. So I just want to be able to let loose and have some laughs, have some fun. So if you want to join me, feel free. And I also have a YouTube backup channel here. And I have a Truth in Gaming channel available on YouTube and Rumble. Mostly been streaming on YouTube with that lately. I'm waiting to hear back from Rumble to get an additional encoder or an additional login, because it's making things very difficult without having another slot. So as soon as I hear back from them, we'll start streaming over there as well. And I'll sync up the channel, the YouTube channel there too, for anyone who's interested. After tonight's stream, I'm going to be going into part 23 of The Witcher 3. And then on Sunday, I think, could be tomorrow, but right now it's scheduled for Sunday. There's 2 streams sitting there waiting. If you'd like to set reminders, you can just either go in the description tab and look for the Truth in Gaming for Odysee. Rumble or YouTube. Right now they're up on YouTube, not Rumble. And one is scheduled for tonight in about 45 minutes, and then the other one is scheduled for Sunday at 7:30. The new game is called The Companion. I'll just kind of give you a rundown. As I mentioned earlier, the Outer Wilds just wasn't my thing, so I'm skipping that one. I know we did part 1 to that, but I just wasn't feeling it. And the crashes are done. I think I figured everything out. Hopefully there'll be no more issues. But in short, The Companion, this one again is going to air on probably Sunday or after the next installment of the Newton series. A cinematic gaming experience. Play as an animal in the spiritual realm. Journey on a quest of purpose and fate. Explore a magical and beautiful world where visions of past, present, and future guide you. Collect essence and find artifacts that aid in building a link to the corporeal realm. This is a single-player narrative. It is a story of mystery, intrigue, and adventure. Journey across 7 majestic landscapes. I always have trouble with that word. And witness the emotional story of a family as they tackle the challenges ahead of them, one step at a time together. So yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. There's on the gaming channel, Truth in Gaming channel, there's a trailer and a brief description. I gave you part of the description. There's a little bit more and a trailer, so feel free to check it out if you'd like. Again, that game is called The Companion, if you'd like to check it out and swing by when that goes live. And please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to any of them if they interest you. Okay, so I also wanted to give a big thank you to KSP for kindly gifting a game, and eventually we'll be getting to that in the next coming months. And that one's the Amnesia game, and a number of you out there have said that's got Soul Trap written all over it, so I'm interested to see where that goes too. So, but there's a few more, and again tonight, Witcher after the stream. Witcher 3 will be going to the wedding after the ghost haunting. Last night's playthrough was nuts. It was awesome. I really enjoyed last night, so I'm curious where things are going to lead tonight. Anyways, enough of the rambling. Let's move along into the next segment. The next segment And we may do 2 cases, but we're definitely going to do 1. So Hey, Queen of Swords. Good to see you. Thunder, hello.
22. The Reluctant Soulmate by David Allen, Tonbridge, England. A registered hypnotherapist, LBL therapist, and emotional freedom techniques, EFT trainer, specializing in spiritual integration and alcohol dependency issues. In Jacqueline's story, the timely discovery of Dr. Michael Newton's book, Destiny of Souls, and one lengthy phone call preceded the LBL experience that would lead to the life changes and understanding she so desperately sought. An honest, trustworthy, hard-working individual who hated her body and herself, Jacqueline couldn't begin to form the relationship she so desperately wanted, had issues with jealousy, commitment, and trust, and just felt her life was going nowhere. Her revelations in LBL led her to the discovery of her soulmate and a whole new perspective on her life and its purpose. This fascinating story began one quiet afternoon when, from out of the blue, I received a telephone call that was almost panicky in nature. The caller was a 49-year-old woman, Jacqueline, in the midst of an experience she didn't understand, and she was clearly concerned about how it was affecting her life and her sanity. We spent over an hour on the telephone, in part so I could help her anxiety subside, but also because I found myself listening with mounting interest and excitement. There was something missing from her story, and I had the overwhelming sensation that I knew what it might be. I couldn't know the details, of course, but I knew how we might fill that gap. I offered possible explanations, answered some questions, and listened a lot. And finally we agreed that the LBL process could be a way to bring her life and afterlife into perspective. Jacqueline's life has had its share of difficulties, both financial and emotional, with a particularly low point exactly 1 year before, symbolized by the now faded lines on her right forearm, the result of a desperate sawing action with a kitchen knife. She told me that over time, and with a history of unsatisfactory relationships, it was just getting harder and harder for her to trust and commit to anyone. What she said she wanted just seemed to be more and more difficult to achieve. For much of my adult life, I've been single. Even in the relationships I've had, I have often felt single. One 12-year commitment to the father of my daughters perhaps was the highlight. That ended because he just didn't care anymore, and I couldn't understand why. I really want an adult, loving relationship. I like sex, and I love people, and I work hard in my job and at home. It isn't easy spending most of your life as a single parent, and my parents, bless them, have been on many rescue missions during that time to their poor, underachieving single daughter. While things haven't gone particularly well for her, she freely acknowledges that there are others who have it far harder, and she is frequently self-deprecating for wanting more from her own life. She is courageous and can make rational decisions for practical purposes. In the absence of a loving sexual relationship and the emotional stability to form one, a practical approach is to perhaps pursue the sexual aspect alone. Because her emotional barriers are firmly in place, they have to be suppressed with alcohol for her to be able to engage in short-term sexual congress. But to be capable of such an approach does demonstrate the rational, practical edge that is so much a part of Jacqueline and her life experiences to date. 6 months before she felt the urge to call me, Jacqueline had made contact with Paul on a dating website. This had a significant impact. She said, "When I saw his picture for the first time, my entire chest tingled with excitement. It was so beautiful." Paul and Jacqueline began a relationship within a dimension involving distance of which few people are capable. Their communications, both verbal and cognitive, were and still are spiritual and telepathic. They have never met in person, and the only real contact they have experienced is by phone. Paul and I have spoken only 4 times on the phone and exchanged a few texts, but have never met physically in person. In the metaphysical world, we have spent many nights together, spoken at length in the language of the mind. I've felt his body sexually and lovingly, cuddling in those early hours just before I have to go to work. He has taken me on wondrous journeys to many places, and is truly my soulmate and guide. Yet amongst all this we cannot meet, and cannot fulfill those most necessary of adult human needs. He cannot come into my life, because he is damaged and will damage me. But he is there. Their interdimensional closeness occurred at all levels and felt to her as real as life. He took her to wondrous places and supported her when the need arose. Paul showed me who he was. At first I saw an Indian medicine man, standing in front of his tepee and looking over his people. He was a good man, and a proud man, and in return he was well respected and loved. Then there was a woman next to him, and she was so proud to be there. She loved her man. He might have been the medicine man, but she was the strength behind him. That woman was me. Jacqueline and Paul's relationship started well, but began to unravel in a disturbing way. The closeness and loving all too often were followed by periods when he became spiteful and hurtful. For some reason he pushed me away with aggression, and by this time his presence had become an intrusion in my life that I couldn't stop. It was in this climate and at this time that I opened and began to read Destiny of Souls. As I turned the pages, I could hardly believe what I was reading. Here was someone explaining in detail things that were happening to me. In black and white, it described exactly what was happening to me, and I couldn't even begin to understand how anyone else could know that. I had been to a crystal recovery center, experienced a healing shower, and saw that my spiritual home is a beautiful garden, as described in the book where newly arrived souls are oriented. These discoveries haunted me, because they also raised questions that seemingly couldn't be answered. I spent some days wondering what to do, and looked up the author of this book and the Newton Institute website, and made that life-changing telephone call. Spiritual memories are discovered during deep hypnosis. The way to achieve the necessary level of trance is in two stages, induction and deepening. In essence, I have to establish a trance state and then improve on it until this deep level is reached. Inductions can be of varying length depending on the client, but my preference is slowly does it. This stage usually takes around half an hour. About 10 minutes into Jacqueline's induction, the following happened. Oh God, this feeling of love. I've got this feeling of sitting in the sunshine. Oh, this heat and love. There are some people in the distance.
Roll out the love.
I'm getting a bit nervous and they have backed off a bit. I'm going to try and calm myself down. Oh my God. They are there, these people. I'm in almost like a playground and there's all these people and they're so happy to see me. Oh, I'm going to cry. Oh, the emotion is just overwhelming. They are so happy to see me. It's so physical. I'm in a playground with physical people. They are still standing back, but they are there. They are getting closer. They are standing behind a barrier coming up to their knees. This happened last night as well, and this morning.
Jump the barrier, jump it.
Then they were in my room. God, I've never felt such emotion from so many people. Who are these people? They are all different ages. I've got one woman with gray hair and glasses. That's my Nan. There's a few people huddled in a group about 5 feet away, but she is my great Nan. I don't know her name. She is smiling. She wants me to come forward so that she can hug me. There's a little boy about 9 years old near her. And I don't know who he is. I don't recognize him. He is just standing there smiling. He's small for his age. My Nan has just got hold of his hand. I've gone to someone else. She's pushing her way through the crowd, and I don't know who she is. She is about 30 and a bit taller than me. Very confident. She's got hold of my hand, and it's like she's known me all of her life, but I don't know who she is. Oh, it's my granddad. Oh, my God, it's Bill. Bill was got hold of my hand, and it's like she's known me all of her life, but I don't know who she is.
It's like she's had a hold of me my entire life, but I don't know who she is. Matrix running interference.
Oh, my God, it's Bill. Bill was never my granddad. He was my nan's second husband.
Good old Bill.
And I absolutely loved him. Really loved him. Oh, my God, he's here.
You're killing me.
It's very emotional, this. I'm just going to cry again. They've gone now with love. Sorry. Sorry. Editor's note. In a spiritual regression session, the hypnosis subject will usually move from an alpha state, past life death scene, to a deeper theta state as they reach the spiritual gateway and eventually their soul group. What has happened here is that Jacqueline has moved past the pace of the facilitator and more rapidly regressed herself in order to see her soul companions. Following this scene with her soul group, the facilitator takes this subject back to finish the past life recall, so he can move Jacqueline forward again in a more orderly manner for the interaction with her soul companions. After this jumping ahead interlude, we continued at a slower progression. Jacqueline went to a past life as a woman named Beth, who had an unhappy, unfulfilled life with a miserable marriage.
Oh, sounds great.
On the last day of her life, she was so tired, and it just seemed to be an appropriate and ordinary end.
An appropriate and ordinary end after she had a miserable existence. Yeah. Sounds great. But she was learning the entire time, guys. She was learning so much that, Christ, I don't think you could do any more learning than having a horrible marriage and until the day you die. Horrible. I mean, oh my Lord. Christ. Ugh. Come on.
Sanu. And I'm now at home in my garden. The grass is as green as it could be.
So we have, again, it could be something like a meadow or a garden or rolling hills with a river or a stream. And it's just like canned things that it's like the go-to programming that the Matrix has. Not fully, but it's something that pops up a lot, like where we see these types of scenarios as a representation of, quote-unquote, the afterlife. The Matrix afterlife, but afterlife anyways. See him in NDEs, see him in breakthrough trips, see him in all sorts of experiencer cases, even children discussing meadows or rolling hills or gardens in relation to their reincarnation account. So it's a big one. It's out there. Just looking at it from an outside perspective, I think we all, or not all, but many of us can appreciate nature. At least, it makes you feel good when you go outside and get lost maybe on a trail or something. I mean, at least I know it does for me. And so the realm or the Matrix customizes an experience that is comfortable and soothing and relaxing and, most importantly, familiar. Because it wants to make sure that you're familiar with what's going on. And so it's not like an overwhelming experience. Maybe you start questioning things or doing things that the Matrix wouldn't appreciate. So it's done its calculations and made sure that there's a certain segment of the population out there in the Matrix who is more comfortable with a nature setting in the afterlife. And it makes sense. I mean, it's not like it makes sense. It's a way to subdue somebody and calm them down so they don't overreact
When I breathe in, I can breathe the colors of the flowers and take on the energy that the garden can give me. I have to stay here for a while, for at the moment I'm not ready to move on. Sanu asks me if I would like a tour of her house, and she describes to me the decor and ornaments until she feels tired again. We have to wait until her energy has been restored fully. There is a pause in proceedings, and she takes a shower to cleanse her of the last life. I ask Sanu if she would like to meet her guide, but even before I had uttered all the words, she says, "He is here, and it is Paul. I didn't expect that. Oh, why am I surprised? He is lovely and so beautiful. His spirit name is Tremar. He is really happy to see me and presents himself as I see him on earth, so that I can recognize him. It's a little odd because I'm not as I am here. He is also in my garden holding my hand, and he hugs me." Jacqueline goes on to describe an intense connection she can actually feel in her physical body. She is telling Paul to behave himself because she doesn't want to be embarrassed. This physical connection is sexual as well as loving, and she is as overwhelmed by his beauty and spirit as she is with his earthly incarnation. He is her soulmate and her guide, and an eternal love binds them together. Her guide and her soulmate exist in two places. The energy of this being is divided into two approximately equal parts, one part pure and complete, and the other entwined and linked with the physical human being who is Paul. The spiritual energy within Paul is no longer pure. It has been damaged by his life experiences, and is strangely separate from the purity of Tremar. Because of the change to the energy, it is no longer the same, and that has practical ramifications.
Oh.
The energy cannot be rejoined as it stands, and to become as one again, the part that is in Paul will need to be repaired when his life is ended. Although this is one spiritual energy entity, its aspects are not able to connect in any meaningful way, while Paul's physical body and brain has possession. If Paul's energy is insufficient to cope, nothing can be done. Tremar is aware, but is effectively just an onlooker.
Just an onlooker.
He cannot alter or supplement the part of his energy that is in use, and he cannot influence Paul's actions and decisions.
But yet, what you're hearing here is a description of like a layer on top of a layer. It's the perfect example of the Matrix. It really is, like how everything is like sectioned off, and again, we talk about the customization all the time, but it's like we see like it's almost like a bubble, like multiple bubbles, a bubble within a bubble. It's just so obvious once you see it.
And installed, as it were. The resultant being, which could be you or me or anyone else, lives with independence, and how we fare in this existence can dramatically alter the structure of the spiritual energy.
So we live in independence, but yet we're supposed to answer to a hierarchical system, or a false hierarchical system. That's obviously what we all know and refute, but just come on. Yeah, that's right. You're a sovereign being. So what should you do? Cut out all the BS. Cut it all out. Refute it every step of the way.
Note: in the spirit world, there are senior and sometimes junior guides assigned to souls. The junior, less developed guides may still choose to incarnate on very rare occasions to complete some unfinished business in their own karmic path that involves a still incarnating soul.
Okay, so this is, again, I have nothing to definitively say, like, oh, like, this is a data point, but this has kind of been my suspicion. Like, he's saying, like, oh, a junior guide or whatever, a senior guide or whatever. All right, so my suspicion, and we've talked about this quite a bit on the channel, where something like a junior guide could be someone that like was just kind of starting to see through the BS of everything. And so the Matrix made, quote unquote, an executive decision to give a false promotion to the being, so that maybe they don't catch on as soon. And so what are they? They're part-time, they're a guide, and then the other part-time, they are coming down and still reincarnating on Earth. The ones, we can go a step further and say the ones that are, straight up guides, the Matrix probably feels that, even one more reincarnation could potentially lead to them awakening, realizing who they truly are, and liberating themselves. And it doesn't want that. So I think many would fall under the umbrella as quote unquote new guides. Because why wouldn't you? The most important thing is to make you feel special, to make you feel like you've achieved something. And the deception can only go so far. You can only reincarnate and think that you need to work on A, B, C, and X, Y, Z for so long until, like, something deep in your essence knows something's not right. And so what's a better interference play by this system than to roll on up and say, oh, guess what? You're not going to have to reincarnate as much. We're going to promote you, and you're going to be a guide in training. A junior guide. And what is that going to do? It's going to fill that ego. It's going to make them just feel great. It's going to provide like a different type of purpose than just constantly reincarnating and reincarnating and reincarnating. But that doesn't mean they're completely not reincarnating. See, like that's what that's what the book is saying right here. It's saying something I've suspected for a long time is like that's always put yourself in the shoes as if you were running this place. You have to. I know it's, we're not all like looking at this like, oh, like, whoa, if I was running this place and I was a cheap parasite, well, you know what? You have to put yourself in those shoes once in a while and say, okay, what would be the maximum way to deceive as many as possible? Because that's what really matters in the end. I really think that everything going on here, not just on Earth, but in the overall, like a lot of times when I'm saying over here, I'm referring to like the overall matrix system, because I think, I don't think, but I know there are many astral realms linked to here. So there has to be other physical realms. I know we've talked about this a zillion times, but it can't be stated enough. As long as someone is still in the system, you've got them. And you can, drag your ass and make things play out and extend everything as long as possible. And when someone's going to wake up, they're going to wake up. And when someone's still stuck in the illusion, they're still yours. You're still under their control. And you're still controlling them. So that's how you really have to look at it. You have to say, okay, like if I was running this place, what would I do? Well, you would offer them like this. They probably throw parties and say, oh, congratulations, welcome. This is, you're not going to have to reincarnate anymore. Welcome. Come on through. We're going to make sure to take care of you. And we're going to promote you at the same time. You're in training now. And instead of reincarnating every, 40, 30, 50, 60 years, you're going to only reincarnate every 150, 200, 300, 500 life. Doesn't matter. And then you kind of like, you can sit there and think like in the back of your head, like, well, time is a weird thing too, right? So we can't even wrap our heads around time. So how does that play off? What if it's like a, because they're working as a quote unquote guide that is linked to the Earth realm. What if it's like a more not a full-fledged time experience, but a partial time experience? I mean, you can run your imagination far and wide about the possibilities that could be occurring in the background with all this, but as long as they are here, as long as they are still capable of believing in the bullshit that you're selling, it does not matter. The system is winning. So you have to really look and think diabolically. And hate to say this, but looking at the way things have progressed just in our lifetimes, everyone, it's very easy to see where we're headed. Now, how that all unfolds, when it all unfolds, we don't know. But we can see clear as day evil running the show. And so, again, even on a small level, look at this, what's going on today, and say, oh, well, how could I manipulate the masses just here on Earth? And how can we get humanity from where they are today to wearing wearable attachments, right? And signing on to the whole transhumanism thing, where, you're going to be installing chips or putting on wearables and this and that, and you're going to be more easily manipulated, or getting brain chips or embedded bracelets, whatever the hell it is, right? And that's just on a very, very, very small scale in relation to the Earth experience. Now magnify that times a zillion with the love bomb and the soul group and the guides and the council and just having this embedded belief system that, I could do better. I can help others. I am fully convinced that many out there who are, quote, guides think that what they are doing is good. Because remember, they graduated. So if they graduated, they want to help others graduate. And the cycle continues and continues and continues. But meanwhile, everyone is still stuck in the goddamn matrix. Just think about, really, when you seriously zone in on the possibilities of what's going on, and there's some information to suggest that that's exactly what's happening, it makes sense. I can't say exactly, but when you're seeing confirmation that it's possible that this is a tool of manipulation, it makes sense. It's not oh my God, this is unimaginable. No. This system is methodically thought out and make sure that the retention is at a bare minimum. It is not going to lose individuals stuck in here unless they have no choice, unless you truly awaken. And that's why there is so much disinfo out there in our day. But disinfo has been around as far back as we have records for, just in its own varying way. It may have been at the town square where they post up the note. Could have been at the church. Could have been through, royalty, the castle or whatever. You pick the scenario, it's out there. It could be in the tribe in the middle of the Amazon. It doesn't matter. As long as things keep continually being passed down, indoctrination keeps being accepted and not questioned, and individuality is not promoted, sovereignty is not promoted, realizing that who and what you are is not promoted, this system will always have the upper hand. And it's up to each of us as an individual to break that programming. And for some of us, it's this lifetime. For many of us, it's this lifetime here today. And for the majority of others out there, sadly, it's not. And it is up to them to figure it out. It's up to all of us as individuals to eventually figure it out. And it's sad to look at what's going on here. It's sad to think about where this is all headed for those that are just coming here or just reincarnating here, and what they're going to have to deal with for who knows how many lifetimes ahead. Just think about, like, if you're reincarnating now as a child. Say you're being born now. What type of chance do you think you have? You don't have none, but it's the window of opportunity. I mean, look, for all that we can sit here and shit on what's going on today, I don't care who you are, you have to be thankful. We chose this specific time to incarnate here for a reason. I am convinced of it. Now, you don't have to believe me, but that's what I feel. I feel that many of us ended up here in this specific timeline for a reason, where we had access to hordes of information and were able to make our own decisions. And hopefully we put our head up above the haze and continued and didn't stop looking and seeking. Many of us have been around and seen the transformation of the internet. We've seen the access to data and information that is nothing short of amazing. And so, even though things are screwed up out there, I mean, we all know that. Just remember that you live in a time, you picked this moment for a reason. I think we all did. I'm convinced of it. It's just too perfect. And I think before we came and incarnated this one last time, there's something inside of us that chose and specifically waited for this moment to make sure that we were in the sweet spot of having access to information where, you grow up, you're a child, and then the internet comes out at some point. You have the wild, wild west era of the internet, and it starts to get cracked down and more cracked down and more cracked down, but the information's still there. If the desire and the drive and the inner force of your essence is there, you're going to keep looking. I think anyone who can just look at all the religions and explore in and out of almost every one of them and see the facade of not just religion but just everyday life and how this place is presented and not keep asking questions, then something's off there, right? It may not be that they're not necessarily and it doesn't mean that they're an NPC. It just means that maybe they just didn't want it as bad as we did. And that's not to say that it's fair or right or anything like that, but in order to truly see what's going on here, you have to want it bad. You have to want it bad. You cannot, at least that's how I look at my journey. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm looking at my journey, and it was always not being content with the answers that were being provided to me, and questioning and questioning and questioning and seeking and seeking and seeking and not stopping, never being satisfied, because the world makes no sense. The realm made no sense. Nothing made sense. And yeah, you can weave in and out of every freaking religion you want. And there is absolutely truths in every single religion. And some have more than others. But anyone who weaves in and out of any religion or a number of religions just doesn't mean you have to practice those religions. It just means that you have to explore those religions. What are they talking about? What are their books? What are their scriptures? Whatever. What are their practices? Looking at everything as a collective. Opening yourself up to things like experiencer cases. And using some of that information that you've learned in other spiritual practices, teachings, books, whatever, and coming to an understanding, or not even necessarily coming to an understanding, but further questioning, which eventually, in my opinion, should lead you to just saying, okay, yeah, things are really fucked up, but let me try and make sense of this. And when you discover the soul trap, everything just fits. It fits. Like in a really weird, just almost perfect way. Does that mean you're going to have the answer to every question? Hell no, you're not. And anyone who says they have all the answers, they're completely full of shit. And I don't ever claim to have all the answers, but the soul trap, and when you look at everything as a whole, if you were to haul this information into court and put the earth realm and the astral realm on the stand and ask a jury to look at it, how could they not see it to be the truth? Or at least have there, at least you can eliminate reasonable doubt. You may not have all the answers. You may not have the best DNA sample available, but you have enough. You have enough to convict and send the Matrix away for life. Or preferably execute the Matrix. But anyways, kind of rambling a little bit, but it's just, again, like, for as screwed up as things are, I know many of us are struggling right now. It's a shit show out there right now, and with everything going on with the financial system and inflation, and everything's just so screwed up. Just remember, it's your last time. Make the best of it, but you chose this specific time for a reason. And in my opinion, you chose this specific time for a reason to have access to information. Access so that we can all communicate with one another like we are today and benefit from it. Shoot different ideas off each other. I mean, there's so many things that you guys talk about in the chat or in the comment section, and we're just able to bounce ideas off one another. How awesome is that? Rewind, 25 years ago, 20 years ago? Yeah, you may have been able to pop online, and have an instant message or something, but we can all sit here today and go over videos and have discussions and share books and resources and everything else and say, oh, well, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? Or why is that this way? And is it possible that it could be that way? It's just incredible. We're so fortunate. So for as screwed up as things are, I think we all specifically chose this time for a reason. There's something within our essence that made us get to choose this time. Something I talk about regularly is that no matter when you come here, no matter what situation you're born into, You can be indoctrinated and programmed into all sorts of crap from the moment you get here. But the Matrix knows damn well that it cannot fully contain you. It can never, ever, ever fully contain your essence. So, like, last thing on this, like, and the reason why I mentioned that is because I get questions every once in a while saying, like, oh, like, if everything is customized to the individual and this and that, then, you know, can't the coming to the soul trap conclusion be the same? The answer is no, because you still have an essence outside of the human body. You have a driving force that is your core being, and it goes way beyond the human experience. And that's what you're tapping into. You're tapping into knowing something isn't right and running with it. Could be the wrong way, could be the right way, doesn't matter. But the one thing I just like to make sure to remind everybody that may be new or otherwise on the fence about the soul trap, please don't just look at this topic as another video that you run across and say, oh, well, all right, well, this may be true, blah, blah, blah. No. Do your own research, please. It's really, really important that, like, if you need to see this, or like you need to, or if you're having doubts, that you need to go out and prove it to yourself. There's a lot of videos on my channel, but that, you know, like, I think everyone should still do their independent research. And if they're on the fence, like, or maybe new and first coming across this, because the most important thing, really, I mean this, is that you get to a point where you just know. You have a strong, not even strong, an unrelenting inner knowing about who you are, what you are, where you are going, and how you're going to handle yourself. Don't ever leave the door open. Like, if you're leaving the door open saying, like, well, what if they do this, or what if they do that, or what if, you know, I get stuck in the light, or what, you know, in my opinion, not in my opinion, like, it's just, well, obviously everyone thinks differently, but yes, so it's my opinion, but you shouldn't even allow that type of thought process to be there, because you are a powerful creator being capable of applying your intention however you wish, and nothing can stop that. But things outside can try and manipulate and deceive that. And that's where the difference is. So if you doubt yourself, if you doubt your power and your strength and your drive for sovereignty and liberation, and think that, oh, well, what if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? Then the only thing I can say is that you need to seriously spend some time continuing to research this topic. Like, my opinion is, like, you probably should spend the next couple years, next 2 years. You don't have to drop your entire life and become a drone on the soul trap, because I don't think anyone should do that. You still have to enjoy yourself and make the best of your remaining time in this last incarnation. But in the same breath, you still have to say, okay, I'm going to allow myself to dig into NDEs and past life regressions and pre-birth memories and astral out-of-body experiences and breakthrough trips and after-death communication and shared death experiences and on and on and on. All that stuff. I'm going to allow myself X amount of hours a week just to get where I need to be. And, or at least not even necessarily, I don't even like saying get to where I need to be, because I think everyone needs to get where they need to get regardless and come up with their own conclusion. But I I strongly, strongly feel that anyone who looks at what I've talked about, what Wayne Bush has talked about, what Dan at Overwatch Project has talked about, my voice may not be best for everyone, but that's the beauty, is that there are two other individuals I trust completely in this topic. And that's Dan at overwatchproject.com or Overwatch channel on YouTube, Overwatch channel on, Overwatch channel on YouTube, Overwatch Project on Odysee, and overwatchproject.com. And then you have Dan Bush. Dan Bush. Whoa. Wayne Bush and Julie McVeigh. Wayne's site is trickedbythelight.com, and Wayne and Julie's channel is Sovereign Spirits. Be sure to check them out and tell them I said hello. Tell them I sent you. And just, if my presentation style isn't for you, it's important that you find someone that may help you in this process. But in the end, you can take all of us, throw it to the side, and do your own research, and that's what matters most. So I'm done rambling. I'm sorry. My goal is really to just try and, anyone who's new or on the fence, to don't give up on this topic. That's all. It's not like another truth out there. It's not just some little small thing. It is the king and queen and everything of truth, in my opinion. Anyways, I'm done. So here we go.
It involves a still incarnating soul.
I don't even know where we were.
Editor's note.
Okay, that worked
In the
out.
spirit world, there are senior and sometimes junior guides assigned to souls. The junior, less developed guides may still choose to incarnate on very rare occasions to complete some unfinished business in their own karmic path that involves a still incarnating soul. To have a soul even of junior guide status in your life is quite extraordinary. In such cases where a client states that someone in their life who is close to them is actually a spirit guide, I initially suspect conscious interference and wishful thinking is at work on the part of the client. In Jacqueline's case, for a junior guide such as Paul to have damaged energy from any physical source indicates either a very tentative new guide or a misstatement by the client from a lack of true perception. In my experience, all guides are too advanced to be walking around with damaged energy. Jacqueline is now dating, but not clinging. She has developed an entirely new perspective on herself, physically and emotionally. Her daughters have observed and commented on the change in her demeanor and confidence. It seems that the inner person has finally arisen. Jacqueline sums up her new perspective with clarity and understanding. I've met my soulmate and guide in true spiritual form. I understand now so much of what scared me, and the knowledge and experience of my everlasting role in the universe, and knowingly being loved so completely by so many, has changed my entire perspective about my own being on this earth, my life and my expectations. I am truly at one now with my body and soul.
Okay. All right. So I think we're going to wrap things up here for the evening. I kind of went off on a tangent there. Sorry about that. Should have waited till the end. But appreciate each and every one of you. Hope you had found some value out of tonight. Going to be headed on over to the Truth in Gaming channel. And I'm going to pop up the end screen and then the link as well. Feel free to join me over there. And on YouTube, you'll be offered a direct connection to the channel. If you'd like to join, feel free. And I appreciate each and every one of you. You know, I may do a stream tomorrow, or today, technically, because it's after midnight. Saturday, September 2nd. We'll see. But if not, then expect us to be meeting Sunday afternoon, I want to try to accommodate other time zones. Probably meet around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, if we don't meet tomorrow. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Thank you, Shannon. Good to see you, brother. Arcane, Pepper, Uni, everybody else out there. Armchair Mystic for the very kind membership gifts, and Monkey Man for the donation earlier, and anyone else who may have donated to the channel today. I appreciate you. And don't forget, I have the Laughing at the Matrix, Clown World Matrix channel on Odysee and Rumble. Feel free to subscribe and sign up for notifications or hit that bell. And if you're new here on the main channel, subscribe and hit the bell. And please consider hitting the like button. It really does help get the channel out into the algorithm a little bit more and spread the word about what's going on. So thank you, Rolling Water. Good to see you. Just noticing you dropped in a little while ago. True Detective over on Odysee, Rolling Water on Odysee, and Rollman, hey, great to see you, my friend. Thanks for stopping by on Rumble, and everyone else listening on Rumble, thank you so much. Everyone on YouTube, I'm gonna be headed on over again to the gaming channel shortly, and we'll pop up a link. So the end screen will just sit there for about another 30 seconds, and the link will be there. Yeah, thank you.